the move last week. We saw a strong close last week and a strong start to this week. Let's just jump on a daily chart. But since that gap up and move at the beginning of the week, I mean, you all heard the kind of news about the vaccine, which was probably 95% hot air. And Jerome Powell has been kind of speaking throughout the week. But since then, we've kind of had some weak low price action candles, so not much to report there, but we'll come back to the chart in detail in just a minute. So what I want to concentrate on, I'm going to touch briefly on oil as well, but I want to talk about Aapl because the move in Aapl is very interesting. So just here, kind of on a naked chart with no mess, we've seen a nice trend channel up. And if you have a look at the extensions here, we seem to have had a very nice wave 1, 2, 3, 4, and it looks like an extended fifth wave, which is what you would expect, especially if wave 1 was sharp, which again, not so surprising, a dead cat bounce after a major sell-off. You see a 1-to-1 relationship between 1 and 3. So usually you'd expect wave 5 to be extended, and that's exactly what's happening. But if you look at the final wave in a little bit more detail, you'll see that this final wave may also be having some extension. So let's just check the extension tool again. And you can see the first wave, third wave, again, 1-to-1 relationship. Wave 5 is getting overextended again, which I'm really excited to see. And I'll tell you why in just a minute. So let's have a look at this final wave now developing. Now, Aapl got to 320 and then stalled. Now, if we're saying this is the final wave, then we could have had a very small wave 1, and this could be the wave 3, a deeper wave 4, and we might now be completing the final fifth wave, which if you have a look here, and I'm now on a 15-minute chart, kind of zooming in more, we may have seen here, small wave 1, 2, a 3 here, small wave 4 there, 3, of wave 4 correction, and then we seem to be doing 3 wave moves. Now this possibly could be 3 waves. If we see more 3 wave moves up, this could be an ending diagonal in play right now. So let me zoom back out again to a 4-hourly. So you probably want to say, well, why is that so interesting? Well, what I'm saying here is we've had 1, 2, very likely a nice 5 wave move with extension in the fifth wave and extension in the fifth of the fifth wave as well, which potentially, if it's not already topped out, is completing very, very soon. And the price is getting very close to these all-time highs, which is fascinating for me for a couple of reasons. First of all, when you look at market structure, and if you ever see an extended fifth wave and then an extension of that, usually reversals are very severe. Even if this was a first wave of a new bullish trend going up. So that's, Aapl starting a massive new move up, going all the way to the moon. Well, if that's what's going on here, then even then we're going to get a deep correction because of how this first wave played out. So I'm looking to short Aapl very, very soon. And if you look at the retracement here, once this wave finishes, wherever it does, and I'm actually eyeing up the all-time highs here to be tagged, by the way, if we can reach there. So if the final wave hasn't actually started, but is about to begin, and we can kind of get to 327, which is what I prefer, I'm going to short this. And I think this is a brilliant place to actually short the market here at the all-time highs. And the minimum kind of retracement you would expect for such a strong move is back to 300, which is a great trade anyway, but because everything was so overextended, it could be quite a lot deeper. Now, why is this interesting when it comes to the S&P 500? Well, I'm on a 4-hourly here. Now, if we compare in terms of correlation with the S&P 500, you'll see, looking back, as expected, the Aapl is obviously very strongly correlated. It's such a big cap stock now. So it's important to look at Aapl, as this could potentially give us a clue. Now, the next question is, well, okay, fine, Sajad. So this is going to correct at some point. We don't know if it's going to go miles up. Well, how does this relate to a potential stock market crash or, major kind of recession, depression type scenario? Well, this is completing 5 waves up and it actually tags this 327. Potentially what that could mean is, and let me just zoom back so we can look left. What if from the lows of December 2018, Aapl was still just completing a final fifth wave? So that would look like 1, 2, and this was just an extended third wave rather than a 3, 4, 5. So this was possibly an extended third, this was fourth, And now we're completing the final kind of parabolic fifth wave straight up to tag that high. And could you get a truncated fifth wave like this? Well, if the wave 3 was overextended, like potentially this could have been, so this could have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so third wave up here, very overextended, then yes, you can get a truncated fifth wave. And zooming out even further, so we're on a weekly time frame now and looking at the kind of 2009 lows, Aapl might be done here. That could be the entire 5-wave move up. Now, I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen. It's just something that I'm watching. And if that's what's actually playing out here and we tag those highs, like I mentioned in a video a couple of weeks back when we looked at the NASDAQ stocks, especially the stronger tech stocks that are flying at the moment, if that's what's going on, well then Aapl is due a very big correction and that would follow what happens in the stock market. Now, if that's not what's going on and Aapl, sees a correction, even if it's a deep correction, but then goes on to break that first wave again, well then obviously we are seeing another 2 or 3 year bull market, and it's hard to say that the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ won't then follow in that scenario. So that's why it's fascinating. But I mean, in terms of a trade setup, this area here around 327, I imagine there's going to be a good deal of selling pressure. So if Aapl is due a major correction, at least possibly more, we don't know yet, but if that's due imminently, either now or literally by the end of this trading week or early the following week, where it's going to tag those all-time highs, what does that mean for the S&P 500? Well, let's discuss that. But just very quickly, I want to just throw on a couple of momentum oscillators as well to see if this further confirms what we could be looking at potentially. Now, if we get a bit of a grind up in Aapl, what likely happen is the momentum will continue to fall slightly. And then even though wave 5 is extended, between wave 3 here and 5, we are going to get some decent divergence developing on the RSI and on the MACD. If we zoom into an hourly chart, you can see it's even more pronounced. So you see this could have been the wave top here. You see the high momentum and you see wave 5 here possibly completing very soon and the momentum fading. So that would all fit as well. So I actually prefer Aapl tags the 327, 328. I prefer that for a massive short, and I prefer that for a huge stock market correction, because in terms of structure then, we're saying this 5-wave move up is not one off a further 5 waves up. That could be the end 5th wave. So I hope that is making sense there in terms of how Aapl could give us huge clues also. And by the way, just a point in terms of Aapl fundamentals. I mean, clearly fundamentals are out the window right now when it comes to stock market investing. But let's just for a minute discuss Aapl. So yes, they have Apple TV and obviously iCloud, iTunes and stuff like that, and that's a constant source of decent revenue for them. But in this market right now, who is buying an iPhone? Who's buying an iPhone 12? Yes, we were on lockdown, so there may have been a few more people buying some iPads and devices for their children so they could do some homeschooling and stuff like that. But now that everything's opening back up, who's going to be buying luxury technology? This kind of continuous growth up, Aapl, you have to be factoring in continuing increases in revenue and potentially profit as well. But year on year, over the last couple of years, Aapl have not managed to do that. They're going in the opposite direction. So just, again, something to note. Anyway, but onto the S&P 500. So what we saw here, this is an hourly chart. We saw a nice looking impulse wave up from the lows of 2760. Now, again, this begs the question, if this 5-wave impulse is complete, what does it mean? Now, we haven't really